can't satisfy an illusion. What is the illusion? The illusion is the idea you have of who you think you are. Again, the illusion is the idea of who you think that you are. It's extremely abstract already, right? You already feel that there's something off there, don't you? Have you, during your life, if this content of this video, for lack of a better word, because there really is no content here at all, if it resonates and you've never heard this kind of, introduced in this kind of way, if it resonates, you're on to a beautiful understanding. So keep at it. But let's go back to the satisfaction of an illusion. So you are not born with the identity that you believe you are. The person you believe you are is a mind, body, contrived, made up identity, and it's made up by concepts. Concepts are what make up the idea you believe you are. So let's look a little bit at this illusion that we're trying to satisfy the entire time. And one clue to you should be that it is insatiable. It is completely and utterly insatiable, meaning you can never satisfy it. Never. It's called the novelty factor sometimes. But this goes even deeper than the novelty factor. So in other words, like when you're a kid, you're thinking, like for me, I remember I wanted this bicycle once when I was 10 years old. And I wanted it so badly. And then my dad said, well, maybe for Christmas. This was just already in the summertime. So I said, Christmas, really? I mean, it's like, okay. So the anticipation, right, that you create, again, mind stuff. I finally received the bicycle. Of course, the first few weeks, months, I loved it, fantastic. But after a while, it kind of loses interest. Because you're trying to satisfy something that is constantly changing, that has zero permanence, and is a completely made-up phenomena that you are making up right now. And you don't have to, because the flow of life is completely effortless. In the last video, I alluded to the source of neuroticism, the source of all this mind stuff, is based on your attention and focus. Listen carefully. Whatever you focus on, whatever you pay attention to, the more you pay attention to something, the more you aggrandize it, the more you build it up. So for example, I have a few plants in my apartment. Unless I focus and pay attention on them and water them and put them in the sunlight, they're going to eventually die. Right? So attention is the mother of all natural phenomenal gifts that you have. And that's why when you observe with detachment and you make that into a practice, you will be much more cognizant and aware of the attention and the prowess and the ability that you have to be able to give attention to things. And you're going to see how attention allows things to proliferate, how it allows it to grow bigger, how it allows it, so. Let's talk about the satisfying an illusion aspect again. Ramana Maharshi beautifully said, trying to fulfill the ego is like pouring water into a sieve. This one is beautiful. I love this. Rupert Spira said, this is brilliant. I'm going to say this very slowly. Pay complete attention. He says, you can chase the mirage, but it will never quench your thirst. You can chase the mirage, but it will never quench your thirst. You know how I like the analogy of people in a desert, you've probably seen that, where especially if you've been out at the desert in the heat, it starts playing tricks on your mind, and then you see like a oasis of water, and you're running, and You're thirsty and you arrive there and you see it was a mirage. It didn't exist. Well, that mirage, that's who you think you are, is the same thing. Once you really look at it, once you try to find it, and that's the thing. When was the last time you actually sat down and tried to find it? If you've never done that, you're missing out. I only speak from personal experience. The realization that we're trying to satisfy an illusion is the byproduct of awakening. That comes immediately as a result of seeing through the entire aspect of your conceptual paradigm. So you believe, you've been led to believe, you've been programmed to believe, this is software, you've been programmed to believe that you are a concept. That's right. Think about it. No pun intended, and let's not go to the mind, but for this exercise, okay? When you meet somebody, they say, hey, my name is blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's just the sounds that are coming from what we call the mouth. And unless you create any identity and form, which we've been conditioned to do, you won't attribute any meaning to it whatsoever. So for example, as I'm speaking right now, I'm not speaking to you as a person, as a personal identity. That's been long gone now. Thank goodness. It's such a relief. So much peace, so quiet now. It's wonderful. It's what I want you to see. Because once you see that, you realize it's by far, nothing even comes close to being, it's the most important thing you can realize in this life. Because then you realize everything was a delusion. And that peace that overcomes your entire essence is amazing. So, you can never complete what was never real to begin with. That's unknown. Adyashanti said, the self you are trying to fix is the one that doesn't exist. Again, beautiful one from Rupert Spira. Illusions do not need fulfillment. Only the dreamer believes they do. Who's the dreamer? The concept you believe you are. So let's go back to that thing about concepts. Say somebody's name, those are words. And then you start asking them the generic programmed questions. You've been programmed. You were not born with these questions. Where are you from? What do you do for a living? You were not born knowing any of that. That's all been programmed in you. It's fine with communication. I'm not saying any of this is wrong. The only time it becomes an issue, and it is an issue eventually, because once you start seeing through the programming, the matrix, some people call it, the fabricated reality. Once you see through it, besides being miraculous and besides automatically and completely shifting your understanding of how absolutely beautiful and miraculous this existence is, and the love that you immediately see that you've always had, that's always been here, because the universe is benevolent. Many times, my friends, growing up, I used to say things like this: I hate this life. I used to say that when I was a teenager. When I went through depression, I went through anxiety, and I also went through a lot of trauma. But that was self-induced. At the end of the day, I recognized that. And that's not easy to hear that, especially for me. But you see it. You really, really do see it. So, Muji says, your ego's hunger is infinite because it feeds on nothing. Zen proverb, no matter how much the shadow drinks, it remains thirsty. So that's the unquenchable thirst. The thirst that cannot be quenched. That's the thirst that cannot be quenched. And that thirst is the concept you have of who you think that you are. And the struggles, the psychological struggles, are happening to the idea that you have of who you are, to the concept. The concept is creating more concepts, and it gets lost in the abstraction. And then you enter what is known as paralysis by over-analysis. And then you're stuck. But here's the beautiful thing. You can observe that. You can observe everything. You can observe all of it. So, you might ask, so what do I do? How can you help me? So to help you, you're asking, how can you help me? And I only speak from my experience and what did it for me. Because the truth is only within yourself. So please never let anybody tell you what the truth is. Find that out for yourself. Stay quiet. Whenever you remember, give yourself a time out. I spoke about this in the last video. If you want to understand even more about this, look at the last video, it will tell you more. But give yourself a time out. Just stop whatever you're doing. You can always go back to whatever you're doing. And I'm not saying mentally, I'm not saying essentially doing physically, or like driving or whatever. Just, find a quiet place, out in nature maybe, in a nice bench, in the park, maybe in your car, close the door. Stay in your car, stay quiet. Please turn off your cell phone. And observe everything with detachment. Allow everything to be as it is. That was one of Adyashanti's teachings, a beautiful enlightened being, which served me a lot. So allow everything to be as it is. Because if you allow everything to be as it is, it will just be as it is. Let me give you an example. The river that flows down a mountain to the ocean, it flows down naturally. You don't have to do anything to make it flow. In fact, if you try to manipulate it, you're going to obstruct the flow. That flow of the river is the same as your flow in life, as what's happening right now. This is a flow state. It's a natural flow state. But all that happens is through concepts and conditioning and programming and mental concepts and becoming addicted to mental concepts, you feel that pull sometimes, right? Oh, I gotta figure this out. No, leave it alone. Give yourself just 1 minute. You can figure it out in 1 minute or 30 seconds. Or if you're like me, people used to say he's very ADHD, you'll see through all of that kind of stuff. But I used to have very little patience. I wanted it like right now. And the universe gave it the opposite to me. It took me years not to figure this out, to finally wake up to this understanding. Years. But is it worth it? That's not even come close to the big yes, the resounding yes. My goodness, it gives you eternal freedom. What is the price of eternal freedom, my friends? Freedom, complete peace. That's my experience. And I want you to see that because it's in you already. So, stop trying to satisfy the illusion. Just drop the illusion altogether. Why? Because it's an illusion. Why are you wasting your time with an illusion? It just sucks your vital energy. That's another thing I have much more now, is just vital energy. Because before, all of my energy was consumed in my mind. Oh, we just had this meeting. What is he going to think? I don't think he liked my proposal. Maybe I should send, I'm going to text Mary. Okay, what did you think of me? Non-stop, blah, 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 blah. Stop. You can function without it. Not only can you function, you will thrive. You will discover aspects of your true nature that will really blow your mind. How? Sit down, be quiet, turn off your cell phone. Please don't watch TV. Go out in nature. Just be still and observe everything with detachment. If you're having a tough time doing that, go back to the analogy of the river that's flowing down the mountain, down to the ocean. It's flowing by itself. Your thoughts will come and go by themselves. In fact, if you try to play with the thoughts, that's what makes them last, right? So leave them alone. That's the real meaning of surrender in this aspect. Have a beautiful and blessed day. Thank you so much.